Picture this. The year is 1324. A king leaves his palace in West Africa with an entourage of 60,000 people. Soldiers, scholars, servants, heralds dressed in silk, carrying golden staffs, and 100 camels, each one carrying 300 pounds of pure gold. He isn't going to war. He's going to Mecca, on a pilgrimage. And along the way, this man will hand out so much gold that he will crash the Egyptian economy, and it won't recover for over a decade. His name was Mansa Musa, and historians believe he was the wealthiest human being who has ever lived. Not Elon Musk, not Jeff Bezos, not the Rockefellers. This African emperor from a country most people couldn't find on a map. Welcome to the African Chronicle. Let's talk about the king history tried to forget. The Mali Empire in the early 1300s was enormous. At its height under Mansa Musa, it stretched across what is now Mali, Senegal, Gambia, Guinea, Niger, Nigeria, Chad, and Mauritania. That's a territory larger than Western Europe. The empire's power rested on two things: gold and salt. Mali sat on some of the richest gold deposits in the known world, and salt, which was worth its weight in gold in the medieval era, flowed through its trade routes. Mansa Musa controlled both. He came to power in a remarkable way. The previous emperor, Abubakar Keita II, became obsessed with what lay beyond the Atlantic Ocean. He sent out 200 boats to find the edge of the sea. Only one came back, with a terrifying tale of whirlpools and destruction. Undeterred, Abubakar sent out 3,000 ships and sailed away himself. He never returned. That left Musa, his deputy, not even a blood relative, as the ruler of one of the most powerful empires on earth. And what he did with that power changed the world. In 1324, in the 17th year of his reign, Mansa Musa set out on the Hajj, the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. For a devout Muslim, this was a religious obligation. For Mansa Musa, it became the most extravagant journey in human history. The caravan stretched as far as the eye could see. 60,000 people, soldiers in formation, hundreds of officials, thousands of servants and attendants, and those 100 camels, each loaded with roughly 300 pounds of gold. That's 18 tons of gold moving across the Sahara. They stopped in Cairo. And this is where things got interesting. Mansa Musa was generous. Lavishly, almost recklessly generous. He gave gold to the poor. He gave gold to officials. He gave gifts to the Sultan of Egypt. He paid for buildings. He paid for food. He gave gold to anyone who greeted him in the street. It sounds wonderful. But here's what happened. He flooded the market with so much gold that the metal's value collapsed. Gold became cheap overnight. Merchants who had built their livelihoods on gold trading lost everything. Egypt's economy, one of the most powerful in the medieval world, went into freefall. Historians who visited Cairo 12 years later reported that the locals were still talking about Mansa Musa, still dealing with the aftermath. The city's gold market took over a decade to recover. One man, 3 months in Egypt, 12 years of economic damage, by accident. When Mansa Musa returned from Mecca, he brought something back with him that would prove even more valuable than gold: people. He recruited architects, scholars, and poets from across the Muslim world. The most famous was Abu Ishaq al-Sahili, an Andalusian architect from Granada, who Mansa Musa brought back to redesign his cities. Under Musa's direction, Timbuktu was transformed. What had been a trading post became one of the great intellectual cities of the medieval world. The Jingareba Mosque, still standing today, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, was built during this period. The Sankor Mosque became a university. At its peak, the University of Sankor held over 25,000 students and housed one of the largest libraries in the medieval world. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts covering science, mathematics, astronomy, and theology. While Europe was still in its dark ages, Timbuktu was a city of learning, trade, and culture, and it was built by an African emperor whose name most people have never heard. Mansa Musa died around 1337. After 25 years on the throne, the Mali Empire would eventually decline, weakened by internal conflict, succession disputes, and the rise of neighboring powers. By the 1500s, much of what Mansa Musa had built had fallen away. And then, history did something it does very well. It forgot. The story of Mansa Musa survived in fragments, in old Arabic manuscripts in Timbuktu, in the diaries of travelers like Ibn Battuta, in a Catalan map from 1375 that showed a crowned African king sitting on a golden throne holding a scepter and a nugget of gold so large it glowed on the page. But in the popular Western narrative of history, the one that appeared in textbooks for centuries, there was no room for an African emperor who made the richest people in modern history look like they were living on pocket change. The erasure wasn't accidental, it was convenient. Because if the world knew about Mansa Musa, if it knew about the Mali Empire, about Timbuktu, about the richest civilization in medieval history being African, it would undermine 400 years of a very particular story about what Africa was and what African people were capable of. The gold was real. The empire was real. The man was real. And now you know his name. Mansa Musa, ruler of Mali, builder of Timbuktu. The man who accidentally broke Egypt's economy by being too generous, and by almost any measure, the wealthiest human being in the history of the world. This is the African Chronicle, where the stories they didn't teach you finally get told. If this video opened your eyes, subscribe and stay with us. There are 1,000 more stories where this one came from. I'll see you in the next one.